welcome back to City Planner Plays, where we are building the city of Verde Beach. And in this episode, we are going to be calling a few mulligans. Now, there's a couple reasons I say that. First of all, this is my second time recording this episode. I called the biggest mulligan I could possibly call, and that is re-recording the episode. And that's because I failed Verde Beach and took it out by making a couple mistakes. So I'm going to try to not do that this time, but I also want to call a couple other types of mulligans, and that's naming things after mulligans. So one of the comments that to the most recent community post was requesting a name for this airport, and a commenter by the name of Kevin suggested Mulligan International Airport, named after James Mulligan, a war hero that is buried at the War Memorial Cemetery, and for all of the mulligans in the series. I love this idea, so we are going to name this island Mulligan Island. So let's start out with that. And by naming the island, I meant naming the airport Mulligan International Airport. So I really love that, but we're not going to stop there. We've got more mulligans to name. So I've been tossing around the idea of renaming a portion of Bass Avenue. And one of the reasons for that is I've called so many mulligans on and near this street, it feels like a very fitting place to consider a name change. So let's take a look. Right now you can see already it's stopping at a weird place. We're going to back that up here over to Keller House. And let's take a look at Fairview Boulevard. Interestingly, that is exactly what it was named in the last episode when it generated a name. And we will call this Mulligan Avenue. And we're not going to stop there. We're not done yet. We have one more suggestion that was made, and that is renaming, as it was this building, the office skyscraper, the Mulligan Tower. I love that. It's a really neat asset. It really stands out in the downtown area. It's one of the first buildings that you would see when you're coming into the downtown area, and it's certainly one of the tallest. So giving it that prominence is, in my mind, a very good thing. So I mentioned that I killed Verde Beach. So I spent all of the money, and I let approximately 40,000 people die. And it's really easy to figure out why that happened. Death care. So we are about to have a death spiral. You can already see the beginnings of it. We have 500 deceased people. I'm going to pause the game because I know this is coming. So we have a serious deficiency in our death care coverage that is leading to this problem. So you can see this neighborhood over here that we started to develop has no death care. Let's look at our uses. I want to place it kind of close to these commercial uses. And we'll take that. We're not going to put that on Brock Street because it's kind of the main drag through here. Next, you can see that there's kind of weak coverage in Foggy Heights. We might add another bit of coverage there. So when I went through and added this in my original episode, I added it in places where buildings had been abandoned because there were so many, and near cemeteries. So that's what we're going to do now. There aren't abandoned buildings yet. So we're just going to kind of use some eminent domain liberally, and we'll place these around where they need to be, because we are lacking coverage in a number of places. So you can see here in Jillian Heights, part of the Gombe district, we have all of these areas. There's a building that's out. So I don't mind that that's a residential area. It's an institutional use, and generally institutional uses are allowable in all zoning districts. So, but it varies by city. Some cities will say that daycares, for instance, are allowable in any district, even though they generate a lot of traffic, because they're uses that, even though they generate lots of traffic and lots of interest and lots of whatever, they're more compatible in terms of the building design and where people would want to be in residential areas. So it's one of those weird things. So we've got that there. So Congress Park and Verde Palms also both, I believe, lack coverage. Yes, it's pretty poor. So again, we're going to place another one in here, but we don't want this on Cargo Way. I believe That's a one-way. So we will place it just off there. That one-way is part of a couplet, which means that it is actually a collector. So we don't want it there if at all possible. And now in this neighborhood over here, Verde Palms, it doesn't really matter where we fit this in. They're all residential homes. We just need to be as, I guess, I don't want to be overly disruptive, if at all possible. Another location, Prospect Heights. We actually have a senior living facility over here and no death care. So there would be a highway setback, presumably. I know we have trees here, so we're not going to place the crematorium there, but I think we're going to place it right over here on Indigo Street. And last but not least, Myrtle Park is only served by a cemetery. We need to beef that up, so I think we're going to replace one of these homes. We're going to say it's a reuse situation, and now that is a crematorium. So I'm going to let this run for a second because I want to make sure that this issue is resolved, because if it is not resolved, I know the outcome. And you can already see our population is declining. That is because people get sick from this, and then people start to abandon. I mean, clearly, who wants to live in a city where there are bodies everywhere? Bodies piling up. So let's see. Oh, well, the bodies are getting cleaned up. I guess we can rebuild the park. It's just a nice reminder to kind of look around and another one. All right. Well, that's fun. Maybe that's another reason people are leaving the city, because everything is burning to the ground and we're not fixing it. It's one thing to burn and have a disaster recovery effort. It's another to burn and just kind of leave it. And I think that's what we've been up to, just leaving it. So I don't think I see any more ruins, but if you happen to see some that I'm missing, let me know. I am not perfect. I can sometimes go past these things. I think that those have been sitting there for the last episode. Maybe longer, probably not. Just probably that one. Yeah, I don't see any more. I think we're good. All right. And maybe that's a good reminder, too, that we should look at our fire coverage. Yeah, we certainly have some deficiencies in Cherry Hills, our new neighborhood. Let's see if we can beef this up in this area. Hopefully not. Right, look at this. This is probably the best location we could. Yeah, that's a park. So this is the shortcomings of kind of reactionary planning, and that is what we are doing right now. We are trying to remedy an issue that we created by a lack of planning, or by maybe not even a lack of planning, but poor planning. So we will need to use eminent domain. This is a absolutely necessary and critical city facility, so we are going to make sure we have it. Same thing here. That could fit right on the collector, but that's just a terrible spot for it. So we're going to not do that. And the beach is way too valuable. That's too close to... Yeah, this is a really, really valuable chunk of land, but the land is only as valuable as it is developed. And if it burns down, it will no longer be developed. So we will improve the fire coverage there. Now we have fire coverage problems that we are well aware of. We have other issues with fire coverage. We'll have to deal with those as they come. Because the only way to really fix this would be to use roads in some of these buildings or turn off fire spreading. And I'm not really interested in either of those things. It's fine. This is Verde Beach. It is what happens. Okay, so we've got that covered. I want to take a look. Our death care is not really improving. That is disturbing. I may add one more crematorium. It is improving. It's just slow. Or it's or it's hovering. I can't really tell. It seems as though it's on the edge. And I know that they have a backlog at this point of issues to deal with. So that could be part of the problem. And I'm reluctant to just put the fire out by spamming the game with crematoriums. I hate that is what you have to do. But at the same time, I know the way this ends, and it's a lot cheaper to solve the problem than it is to let the problem run its course. So looking at some of our core statistics, childcare is good, elder care is good, overall city healthcare is good, death care is our problem. And our big problem is that our crematoriums aren't getting to where they need to be, and our cemeteries are full. So we have two two plots available. Not very good. So the other question I have is and something that could cause problems is traffic. So this is a spot that I think we're going to need to remedy at some point. This is a problem, and this is one of those problems created because of where we purchased tiles. We can do more about that now. This whole area is kind of heavy. There's going to be some stuff we need to do here, but probably our big issue area is right here. So before we get to our harbors and our airport, let's do a couple things here to try to improve traffic flow through this area. So we have kind of a hokey setup going on here that I don't love. We're using one-ways in a way that doesn't create couplets. So I'm going to create some couplets, and hopefully that'll help. One of the things I'm going to do, so I am getting rid of a bike facility here. We'll need to fix that. So I created a one-way couplet there, and I'll have one in the opposite direction here. These two together will function as a collector, just like these two do, and just like these two do. So we have these collectors now, and you can already see what it's done to the traffic. It's starting to improve it a bit. We're going to need to do more here. You can see that our trains are backing up. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We might need to remedy this before anything else. And I have some ideas on how to fix this, but it's going to require a pause. So I've never been happy with what Mulligan Avenue is doing. It is kind of terminating into this one-way King Street, Barlow Street craziness. We're going to pause that for a second, because I think that the way that we are going to solve all of this backup is to really give this rail system some thought. And I think I made some mistakes in the previous build that are going to be fairly simple to correct. So let's call a mulligan on Mulligan and make some changes. So I'm going to create a bridge that connects up here, and I think we're going to shift this roundabout down and really give some thought to how this corridor functions, because this is a problem. So what we're going to do, we will angle this up. I want to adjust my heights. We'll take that just a couple of notches. Now I just severed that power line, but I don't think this is necessary anymore. We now have connections to this entire neighborhood, so why don't we just eliminate this? It's a maintenance cost that isn't beneficial to us in any way at all. And it's actually a detriment. If we had a thunderstorm, it could be struck by lightning, so not helpful in any way. And now I want to run Mulligan up here into a roundabout, but I don't want to have a double roundabout. That's obscene. So we're going to call a Mulligan on this highway and make some changes, because I think that this traffic backup is causing backups here, which is, you can see it. Look at the dead bodies on the other side of the train. The trains are causing death care to break. Wow, this is absolutely insane. So maybe our focus is actually going to be fixing our trains, because we are going to destroy the city if we don't. So what we're going to do now is we'll feather this a bit. Let's get some more power on that feather. And then I need a flat workspace for the roundabout. I think we're going to do a substantial roundabout. I don't really care what road I'm using right now. These are all going to be deleted anyway. So I'm just using a 10 by 10, and now I do care a little bit more. Let's use a highway. We'll turn our... Actually, we won't use a highway because then we won't get nice connections. And that's what we really care about at this point. Nice connections. So now that we have that, let's eliminate those connections, or those curves in this highway, and bring this down. Bring this closer. So now I want a real nice connection in and out. So this would be leaving the airport. This would be arriving or going towards it. Okay. Why don't we straighten this up too? This is not perfectly centered, and that's perfectly okay. It's going to function all the same anyway. I'm really concerned about getting people through here quickly. And one of the reasons I know that this is going to be a significant freight corridor, and this will eventually be our freeway. This will become a full interchange. But for the time being, it's going to be this connection. And I think there's something else we need to do. So if we look at this configuration here, I did this hokey wonky thing, trying to make it look like you could store trains here. Why don't we totally forget about trying to make it look like there's train storage there and actually give some thought about the way this functions? So one of the things I was thinking about is we have this connection here that leaves, we would potentially get cargo in from either our future harbor or this cargo this cargo terminal over here, and it would leave the city. Like that's not a movement I want to encourage. So I should eliminate this movement altogether. Next, I'm going to eliminate this bridge for the time being. So we have this cargo terminal. So that's one movement that we want to have. We also want to have a through movement, and I'm almost thinking at this point that we should have a second cargo terminal so that we don't have some of the conflicts between the different tracks. So I'll show you exactly what I mean, but here's the gist. So I put this here. So this will be my through for freight. This will be my through for passenger. And now I want to create a road that I could put another cargo terminal on. Cargo rail terminal. I think this will be far enough. We will give it a shot. No. So let's back that out just a little bit. Too far. Lesson there, always trust the guides. So there's a reason why I think this might be the preferred option. So we're going to do a couple of things. So we have this train line going in. We've got conflicts here. This isn't good. Let's eliminate this. So I'm thinking it is probably in our best interest to have a one-way loop through this entire area. And the reason I'm thinking that is I know that we're seeing significant train backup through here. So what I'm thinking is I will take this, I will continue it on a bridge. Oh, that is ugly. That happens from time to time. We can get that fixed. So hopefully I can clear a road underneath there. I do need a connection. Let's just make sure, because if we can't clear, that's going to be awful low. Even if I were to mirror this, oh wow, it's going to let me do it. That is absolutely crazy. So I'm just, that's not going to work. That's cute, but that's not going to work. So this road is kind of a temporary planning road. I don't honestly think that we're going to do this in this particular way, but I do need to figure out how to get this raised in a way that allows me to at least make a connection through here in a logical way. And that looks better by the road, kind of. We might... no, we're not going to just go with it. So we might do something more drastic. And we'll start by clearing the road here. Now we have plenty of height. And then... well, these are some of the lumpies and bumpies that you get in vanilla. And one of the things that I did mention in the community tab, or one of the questions I asked actually, was if there was interest in me adding, in the community having me add a mod or 2 or 3 to this build. And while there was support for this concept, I read a couple of comments that concerned me, and that was that there are a fair number of people who watch this build because it is vanilla. And, I am sensitive to that and don't want to sap the fun and investment that you've put into this series with me. So I am not going to be adding mods to this build to clear up those lumpies and bumpies. We're just going to have to use our skill and savvy to make it work. Oh, that is really brutal. So as I talk about skill and savvy, you see the limitations of that. This isn't great, but I would say that this is significantly better than it has been. So I am going to take that as a win, and we will go with this for the time being. So the main purpose anyway of what I'm doing is to create a one-way couplet. So what I'm thinking is this will be our in, or actually this will be our out. Okay, so I was trying to clean that up a little bit. It's kind of a challenging connection there, but it's a little bit better. So this is our out. Let's make sure that we are all upgraded in the right direction, because we're going to be doing a lot in terms of changing directionality. We still have this weird bridged section that I personally struggle with getting those all to match. You could make a whole bunch of short spans. I wish I understood why, like what the criteria is. Let me see if I can eliminate this and try to force it to be. That was clearly a fool's errand because it is not going to have a bridge span unless it's really high and wonky. Okay, so now we have our connection here, and what I'm thinking is we will run this along here. Let's back this all the way up to the highway. And what we're going to do is prioritize one movement through here. Okay, so that is prioritized there. We're going to want to mirror this though and ensure a couple movements can take place. Number one, we're going to want to have a through movement here. Okay, we're also going to want a movement from here that merges onto this track. And that's way too short. That's not going to work at all. So maybe we will take this movement and actually make this the movement that comes onto the track here. Back this out again. We got to do some leveling. So I don't think that this is the ideal place to merge. I'm going to try one more time. I would much rather merge, I think probably under the bridge. Let's call a mulligan on these bridge spans too. Oh, that's so much better. I like that a lot. So I think we're going to do the exact same thing in the opposite direction, but in a different spot. But we still do need our through movement to come here, so let's take care of that now. So we actually have two through movements. I don't know how necessary that was, but we still might separate them anyway, just because we have the space available at this point, and that's at a premium, or it will be in the future, so we should take advantage of it when we have it. So this one would need to connect up in reverse. We have our connection there as well, then merge in. Okay, and then the thought process here would be that this would be shipping things out. So actually this is an interesting problem, because I actually need to be able to reach this track over here, so I might need to elevate this segment right here. And I'll show you why in just a second. Okay, so this is inbound, this is outbound, and we want to make sure that we can get this onto the track without a turning movement as efficiently as possible. So we want to be able to cross that track. So I think this is actually going to be a very efficient setup for us. Now, I don't even want to think about what's happening over here for a second because there's a lot going on. But what I do want to think about a little bit is what we're doing with the highway over here, because now we've completely changed the way that this works. So we have in here, we have through, outlet, make it drop off. So the next thing we need to think about is over on this side, we need to be able to get the products in, because that will presumably be a movement we want to make as well. So I've been giving this some thought, and one of the things I want to do is go ahead and add on to the side of this island here, because we're going to run a track here in the future. And by future, I mean now. So, oh boy. So we're going to need to run this momentarily. So I don't love this because all of our train infrastructure is broken right now, and I want it to remain broken for just a little bit longer. This isn't connected to anything, so right now we're importing and not exporting. Not ideal, no way to get to the airport, and we're flooding. Joy. So we'll back this out. Let's see if I can get a level path. Can. So what I was thinking is we have the train track right there. So why don't we take advantage of that? Okay, so now we have this, and what I want to do is somehow get this movement. So this movement needs to get things in. So we're going to have a segment of track parallel to this that crosses over all of these facilities and into our cargo air terminal. So first of all, we're still having flooding issues, which stinks. It believes that we are on water. So I'm turning off the grid in the hopes that I could somehow sneak this through. It's really just kind of a struggle with this. And a lot of that has to come, or has to do with the height of, or the closeness of the roads that I planned. So what looked good, at least in theory, not so good in practicality. So what we're gonna do is we'll get rid of those road guidelines, get this, and hopefully that will allow us to make the connection that we're trying to make here. And it looks like we're gonna have to have a really sharp turn here. And that's not necessarily the end of the world. If you think about it, they're just leaving the terminal, so you'd expect it to be a little bit slower going there than anywhere else. And last but not least, we're rebuilding our road here, trying to make this connection as smooth as we can. It's not perfect. It does widen out here, but we're able to make this rail connection. And ultimately, that's what I care about the most, because we need this rail traffic to actually function. Okay, so this is the movement in, so we need to reverse this. And that will make sure that the trains are on the right side of the track to make this movement. So now we have a nice, clean way to get into the station. We just need to link it up to our main line. Okay, so in an acknowledgement of the importance of this facility, what I'm doing now is making a more significant interaction or interchange between these rail lines. So the thought would be, regardless of whether you're coming to the city or leaving it, there's as minimal cross traffic as possible. I'll modify this ramp. It turned out kind of rough. I don't know why, That's better. Well, no, it's not. Yeah, these ramps are just not looking very nice. It's funny, I did such a good job on the second one, and I don't know why. Well, that's better. So these are duplicative right now. So that's not exactly helpful. So what we're going to do is we will convert this. So if you were going to the region, you could use this line. Actually, that is backwards. If you were coming from the region, you could use this line. If you were going away from the region, which is not something we want to do. So again, adjustments. So just the thought process being, there's no world in which we would want to promote trains leaving our region. So what we're going to do is modify this one, because we actually want the trains to always come to our region, to always stay within our region. At least if they're going to the cargo airport. I think we've got a full train length, so we should be okay there. And I think we're almost done with this. It's not happy about the segment length, so we'll just back out a little bit. Now let's get our directionality correct. This will be to the cargo terminal. This will be away from it. And now when you look, they're merging into the side of the track, so there's as little crossplay there as possible. This is ugly. I wish it mirrored this a little bit better. Maybe at some point we'll clean it up, but it's going to be very functional right now, and that is ultimately what I care about more than anything else, kind of. There we go. That's a little bit better. So we've got some movements going on here, and we're going to leave this bi-directional because we're going to use this for our cargo terminals in our cargo ports in the future, but we're not there right now. That is not, we couldn't be further from thinking about that right now. Right now, we are worried about getting things linked back up. So I want to get underneath this bridge, and the way that I think I'm going to do that is to try to mirror the highway just for a little bit, and then make a quick turn in here, and let's call a mulligan on this roadway network that we created. And we are going to let the topography and the built environment guide our roadway network. Not so much the topography, not this time, I guess. But really the roadway network is going to guide our decision making there. So that is much better, much smarter, makes more sense. I like it more. So next, let's fix up this network that we broke a little bit and get things back to where they were. So this is significantly better in my mind, a much better connection, and this will actually function. Now we just need to make all of this other stuff that we have now compromised work again. Okay, so kind of more of a repeat of what we did last time, but it looks a little bit uglier. So that's fun. We'll have to try to clean this up as best we can. I think part of this is our heights are a little botched right now, but we have a whole bunch of soil, which should work in our favor. So let's give this another go. All right, so it's getting better. A little bit more that we need to do to fix this. And it's all with the tools that we're using, but I wanted to get that transition piece to work well. Okay, so I have been kind of just going back and forth with this, trying to make it work and failing miserably. And sometimes you just kind of need to know when to call it. I am letting perfect be the enemy of good. It is good, it will function. It is not beautiful, but it is certainly functional. And at this point, getting the functionality of this area back means as much as anything else. So I'm gonna stop and try to convince myself that this situation that we find ourselves in is okay. Because it's a challenge for me to remember that sometimes. I think it's really easy to just dig into going crazy, trying to get all the heights just perfect, and ultimately it doesn't, it's diminishing returns. So what I'm going to do here is we had a bridge that was a highway going over, but I don't think that the highway bridge is nearly as important as a local roadway connection that would allow some of this freight traffic to dissipate to this collector. So that is what we're doing. Now, one of the things that I don't like about this tunnel that I'm creating is that it has a turn in it. And that is just not something that I would think would be a great experience underground. That said, there are tunnels with turns. It's just not the ideal experience. So this is a very specific location though. We could bridge up and over and it would be crazy, or we could have this tunnel, which makes a great deal more sense in my mind. And we'll soften some of the landscaping around here. I know that I've done a lot of very expensive projects. Let's get this running again. No, we won't. So as much as I want to get this running, we still don't have our rail connections made over here. So we need to get those taken care of. And this is really the last issue that we have with transportation. And what you can see is we have crossing that needs to occur. So I think what we need to do is figure out the center of this, relocate this track to the center. So let's say that is actually approximately the center. And I think this is important for a couple of reasons. Like I mentioned, so this track is outbound. So we need to find a way to get this up and over. So if we have freight that needs to be dropped off outbound, it can go over. This needs to cross as well. Yeah, there's some crossing that needs to occur. This is going to be very complicated. So we're going to start out by taking this bridge and we'll drop this. So I created the longest span I could while keeping that above ground. And now because I'm going to relocate this across, what we're going to do is have a parallel. Oh, hold on. So we actually need this to come over here because we're going to need to have a track shift. So what I'm going to try to do is run this underneath here, which isn't going to work. So we'll run this underneath and then make our connection over here and then have this go above momentarily and then drop. Now over here, we're going to have this go up. So go up 3 notches, meet as close as we can over here, and then we need to bridge down once we cross. We're going to have one more line cross over here, and it's going to have to go underneath all of them or over the top of all of them. So that is going to be the trick. And this could come down. So there's a lot going on here. I'm trying to make sure that there's a kind of a logical transition between all of these and have the directionality make sense as well. So I'm really being deliberate about these, and that is creating headaches for me. So I think we might actually hold off on this bridge until we are done as well. Okay, so now as I think about this, what we're going to do is actually route this around and then bring it up and over. So this is one more towards Verde Beach, or rather away from Verde Beach. So here is where we're going to cross over. Actually, it is not going to be where we cross over because we need to get underneath that highway connection. And once we get beyond that, then we can go up and over. So we're going to have some merging occurring before then. And here I'm just going to eyeball this and make a connection for myself. So I'll use angle and I'll start connecting these lines in. So those lines are merging right here. And then I want one line right here. So I'll use the grid lines and we're going to merge that very close to here. Now, one of the issues is that we are now starting to encroach upon our built environment, and I do not want to destruct anything if at all possible. Just a reminder to myself, so this actually needs to go in the opposite direction, I believe. Yes, this is outbound. This one is outbound. This will be both ways. So we need this to cross over to the other side at some point. So that will be our next movement. Let's get this directionality correct because it gets really complicated and confusing. So what I think I'm going to do here is start mirroring tracks again. I want those transitions to be as close as they can because I really think that that's important if you want it to look believable. And here's where we will begin to move up. So we'll go up 3 ticks, pull it as far as we can without it kind of having that ruining effect. So we have this passenger track that's extending out for no apparent reason. We're going to stop that. And we will have this cross over. Oh, I'm getting so excited because it's a fun project, but it's also kind of a stressful one. So now what I'm trying to do is align this again with our road, which was kind of our guiding principle last time. This lines up with the road. So we've got that, and I can make that transition down. And I can place our track. That is brutal. So let's get that cleaned up. Okay, and after what feels like an endless amount of adjusting and maneuvering, we at least have something that would almost function. This is still kind of an ugly connection in my mind. I don't know that there's a lot that I can do to improve it, short of just kind of freestyling a little bit in this particular location. And this is one of those situations where I'm probably just going to make it worse by fiddling with it. But you know me at this point. I love to fiddle with things. So let's give this one more shot. Yep, I've just made this worse. I did not help anything. I just complicated it. So one last go here. Let's look at our topography. I'm wondering, yes, so I think that we are fighting the topography here, and that is why I am struggling with this. So rather than trying to do what I've been doing, what I should probably do is think about tunneling. Okay, so finally something that I can live with. So we just need to finish our connections with our road and get our freight rail connected. And again, we are fighting topography here, so we actually might tunnel through this as well. That is much better. It makes a great deal more sense. Yes, this is going to work. There's some weird track switching going on here. So let's give this one last once over. So yes, this would actually be a one-way track right there. Now we don't have any switching. They just merge here. And now we can focus on our connections into this area. I think we're going to want one more roadway connection in here. So I don't love this location for a roadway connection, but we're kind of working with what we have. And what we have here is a whole bunch of roads coming in at kind of a weird location and a need for connectivity. So we are going to do what we can to make do with this. So this is now connected. There is no connectivity between these two terminals, which is kind of an interesting dynamic. I think it would be better if they were connected, but understandable that they are not. And now we're connected. Let's run this. We've got our highway connected. We've got our new roundabout. We've got our collector here. We are rocking and rolling. So I just want to look and make sure all of our lines are established correctly. We've got our lumpies and bumpies. We are going to need to do some significant landscaping to make this look even a little bit okay. Like I said, I'm not going to come in with any mods at all. That is something I don't want to take the fun out of the game in this build for anyone. So that was an impactful comment. So I'm not going to do that. Okay, the other thing, we are in a very challenging spot with our water. I think we're going to have to deal with that in the next one. We're going to fix our power budget. We'll just turn up our water budget for the time being. Let's take one last look at what's happening with our crematoriums. It looks like the bodies are going away. We're gaining population again. Let's see how we're doing here with traffic. I don't see anything. Traffic flows back up to 80. Oh, I do not like what is happening here. So in the final mulligan, that's way too close. I mean, this is already bad. That is, certainly I would not encourage a junction that close. This one isn't good either, but at least it's office type uses that generate a fraction of the amount of traffic that the industrial uses generate. So the industrial uses, absolutely, we do not want to encourage any more of those uses in this to come through that corridor. I know that it's going to lead to funneling, and it looks like they're deciding that this road right here is a collector. You can kind of see that they're merging into this road, and that's going to be a fix we need to take on in the future, but not right now. Certainly better than it all occurring right here. Okay, and the last thing, I broke some bike lanes over here, and I want to get those fixed. So there was a loop through here that is gone now. This isn't going to be super useful, but at least you can get to this neighborhood and start anywhere in there and still proceed down the bike network. So to me, that's a win, and it's a good thing. Now, after what for me has been a pretty significant amount of time recording, we still haven't done anything with the island. This is rail fixes, ultimately, is what we needed to do to get the city working again. We still have some things going on here. So I want to make sure we don't have intercity trains allowed here, because that's not a thing here anymore. And we're really focusing on this as kind of a passenger stop. So you can see that really took a lot of the passengers away on this line, but that's okay. Oh, another... Really? A gazebo burnt down in this. That is crazy. And have we had any fires while we've been building? Looks like we're okay. We're going to need to do a lot on that airport island. I wanted to get to more today. What I got to was fixes to this rail line. I think we are going to shift this airport over a little bit. We are going to have cargo harbors over here, passenger harbors and ferry over here. Over here, we're going to have some water treatment and some other uses over here. So I've got big plans for this area, but I have to pace myself a little bit, because the last thing we want to do is break the area because we weren't thinking through our transportation network. And you can see that little bit of improvement means that our rail network is moving. Even if there's some heavy traffic in certain areas, it's not insurmountable. Let's get rid of that signal there. We don't want that. We want to prioritize that through movement here. We've got a better connection here. We're not backing up. We're in a good spot. Things are working the way that they should. And when I look at what's happening here with the trains, it's just night and day from that cutscene that was in the last video. Yeah, we're in a significantly better spot. And this is going to be an area, particularly when we get those harbors in, that is just going to be completely flooded with traffic. So the last thing we want is to begin this in a place where traffic is really really struggling. What is this? As I say all of that, what did I do here? Okay, that's the way in. So it's actually backing up at the cargo airport hub. That's acceptable. It means that they're just not unloading it quickly enough, and there's nothing that I can do about that. So that's one of the reasons you got to be really careful with these two and really be deliberate and intentional with your layout, because it's just not, it can really turn sideways very quickly if you're not careful. So you can already see it's backing up here. It makes me wonder if we're going to have to increase this queuing lane right here. We don't really have much ability to do that, but we're at a spot where once we add our harbors, there's going to be a blockage. So that's certainly a problem. Thankfully, it's not getting back to our main line, and even if it would, there's a long ways before it would impact Verde Beach. And you see backing up here as well. Frustrating. And I think I know why. We missed one crossing. Shoot. So we don't have a way to get from the cargo terminal through here, but I think most of these trains are probably going directly through. That one's going there. This one's going. Yeah, they're all going to the same place. So even though they have the ability to travel through here, well, I guess some of them are, but I think those are the ones that are coming from the opposite direction. So these trains, I don't know why they're deciding that the easiest path is to go through the harbor or the cargo train terminal. It wouldn't seem to be, because they could certainly proceed through here. So that might just be some weird routing things going on, because this trip is even longer. So I don't really understand the rationale there that the game is making. Here it is again. Okay, that is going to the cargo terminal. It's not that bad. So we'll just need to keep an eye on that, because that's certainly a concern. I don't want any backing up or queuing. We are clear here, so these neighborhoods are free of bodies. Crematorium situation still a thing, but it's clearing up. So I'm happy. This is a good spot. Our population's not declining. Our financial house is in order. Our traffic flow is close to 80, which is kind of what I look at as our baseline for what we have to maintain. So there we are, 80. So we're in a good spot. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode today. I know it's a little bit different than I initially thought this was going to start out, but when you see that you have a problem, sometimes even though you want to do something else, you got to focus on the thing that's most important. And in this episode, that was getting our rail situation straightened out and getting our death care straightened out too, because I know that it's a big problem for Verde Beach if we don't do something about it. We end up with these massive train backups, and this is a really complicated train network, but we're going to be really just pumping trains through this entire area, and there's going to be a lot of cargo. I mean, this is going to be the life, kind of where all of the cargo in Verde Beach comes in. So all of the commercial activity in the city is going to really focus on this little area right here and that island right here. So it's important that we really nail it. So I think that we have. I think that we've got this going, and it's working appropriately. So hope that you like this build. If you did, please consider hitting the like button. If you are not subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so. And if you want to be notified when I release new videos, hit that notification bell. I really want to give a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters. You can see their names here. Thank you so much for your support. And I want to thank you for joining me and watching this video. Please stick with me for a quick city tour. Thank you. Bye-bye.